G'day there guys, how much wood could a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood? Good question. It's your main man Markee and welcome back to another episode of r/AmiTheA. Now if you love today's bloody good content, I want you to sit back, relax, chuck a prawn of the Barbie, like this video, please, and enjoy the stories. Thank you. Posted by user Love Preserving. Titled, Am I the a-hole for telling my brother that his crush dislikes him because he's an a-hole, not because he's too smart? So, I have a younger brother, 13, who is a child prodigy. I won't give too many details, but he's well known in the academic circles of our country and attends an institute of higher education. Naturally, people are impressed with his intelligence, and he's quite popular and makes friends easily. Our parents dote on him and have never told him no. As a result, he's become very arrogant, condescending, and disrespectful to people he deems below him. That's just about everyone. Lately, he's been openly talking about a girl he's crushing on, and much to his dismay, she's quite unimpressed with him. He often complains to my parents and I about his failed attempts to befriend her. I understand why she dislikes him. On one occasion, he invited her over for a school project, and I overheard the interaction. He was constantly talking over her, dismissing her ideas, and even calling them stupid. 99% of the time he was talking about himself and his accomplishments, being in news articles, what his future plans are, etc. The poor girl obviously seemed uncomfortable. He quizzed her about her career aspirations, and when she answered, he proceeded to point out it's a bad career path. Today, he was once again complaining about her and said that she's obviously intimidated by his superior intellect. He claimed that all girls only like stupid guys and that women are emotional. Sadly, my parents agreed and kept assuring him that this girl is obviously uncomfortable with the fact he's so accomplished and awesome. After hearing this nonsense many times, I finally told him that his crush dislikes him because he behaves like an obnoxious, know-it-all a-hole. I explained that he would probably have a chance if he showed some modesty instead of talking down on this girl so much. So my parents obviously think I'm an a-hole for saying this. They said that it was horrible of me to say this to a 13-year-old and that he's just a child. I told them that he needs to realize that his personality is becoming a problem and that his crush dislikes him because he's an a-hole, not because he's too smart. Am I the a-hole? I think you've well and truly hit the nail on the head with this one. He does need to realize if he's going to dish it out as blunt as he did, he needs to be told the truth back to his face just as bluntly. Your parents suck for enabling that behavior. I can see perhaps they want him to focus on his career and studies instead of girls, but the way they've approached it kinda seems like they're encouraging him to demean girls further, and in a way, that sort of power trip could just lead him to focus on girls more. He's 13 years old. Putting him in the right path to emotional maturity now will do him a world of good. The way he's acting isn't the be-all and end-all of relationships for him, but with his parents continually enabling him, they may just be setting him up for failure. I think you've handled this well, and you telling him the truth will only lead to him approaching these situations in a more positive way in the future if he does indeed listen and take your words to heart. So I'm gonna go with not the a-hole. Now in the comments, generic name 907 says, not the a-hole. You actually are doing him a favor for him to learn this lesson now. Your parents are setting him up for failure. Regardless of intelligence and ability, a huge part of success is also likability and the ability to get along with others. I've seen several brilliant people get nowhere because of their complete lack of emotional intelligence. If your parents could take a break from polishing his gold throne, maybe they'll stop enabling him to be so obnoxious. As he gets older, his arrogance will overshadow his intelligence, not the a-hole. And there's every chance that his age will increase while his intelligence is static or lands in the more normal age range. Child prodigy does not always translate to genius adults. This kid needs something else to fall back on, kindness or a good character, in case things don't turn out as expected. This is an excellent point. There are so many stories of child prodigies that don't really have any advantage over more normal people who by the time they're in their 20s or 30s, but never learned the social skills and work ethic that their less naturally talented peers developed in the intervening years. Good social skills can often get you very, very far in ways that talent and raw ability can't. This reminds me of a scene in The Social Network. You're probably going to be a very successful computer person, but you're going to go through life thinking that girls don't like you because you're a nerd. And I want you to know from the bottom of my heart that that won't be true. It'll be because you're an a-hole. Not the a-hole, and sometimes the truth hurts. I have the exact same quote in my head. He may be an intellectual genius, but he's incredibly lacking in charisma, empathy, and social norms. If he's as smart as he thinks he is, he should be able to recognize these deficiencies. Recognizing it is also a lot about maturity, and at 13, I can't fault him for not having that maturity yet. Also, if you've been told for 13 years that you're God's gift to mankind, it takes a while to unlearn that, even if you have the mental capacity for that. He's basically been brainwashed from a young age. If you are constantly told that you are better than others, you'll start to believe that. It seems like nobody ever challenged him to use his EQ. It doesn't have to mean he's not capable of having a decent EQ. He's young enough to learn good social skills if he starts getting on track now. Not the a-hole. Your parents are most at fault, however. They're raising a narcissistic monster. They need to teach him manners before it's too late. Thank you. I hate having to be the one to throw out the N-word. It's very clear that his lack of self-awareness is a product of the coddling. That's exactly how you make an evil genius. I get you mean narcissist, but the N-word is maybe not the ideal way to refer to it. He knows exactly what he's doing. He just doesn't care. Posted by user Siltaway. Titled, Am I the a-hole for telling my wife I would open a separate account if she didn't get our money back? So I, 39 male, have been married to my wife, 36 female, for 12 years. We have no children, but we do have a cat and a dog who we consider to be our children. My wife has a sister, M, 37 female, who has made very poor financial choices and is now heavily in debt. She refuses to get a job and instead jumps from one MLM or get-rich-quick scam to the next, sponging off of relatives to make ends meet. Both me and my wife work full-time. We each have separate accounts that we use for our fun money, for hobbies, or whatever we want. We earn almost the same amount of money, with me being a little higher, so I contribute 60% and she contributes 40% to make things fair, and also so that we each have about the same amount of fun money. We also have a joint checking and savings account that we use for the household bills and household emergency fund, like when the water heater flooded the basement in the middle of the night. Both of us have access to the joint accounts, and if we need to use it, it is never an issue, so long as we make sure to tell the other that we used funds from those accounts. As I was going through the statements for our joint household account, I noticed that there was approximately $2,000 missing from the joint savings account. I noticed that they were all Venmo transfers to her sister. When my wife came home from work, I asked what this was about, and she told me her sister needed money to start her own business. My wife sat me down and explained to me that her sister joined yet another frickin' pyramid scam, this time selling fake nails and makeup. My wife said that she has the potential to earn 6 figures a month, and if that was true. My wife also said that she too was going to join her sister selling these products, and if she made enough, would quit her job and sell them full-time with her sister. I told my wife she either needs to go get the money back from her sister, or I would open a new account for my share of the household expenses and transfer it to that account when it was time to pay the bills. My wife is upset with me and does not understand why I'm being so unsupportive. I told my wife that not only did she take money and not tell me about it, she invested it into something without even considering how I would feel about it. My sister-in-law called me last night and said that I was a raging a-hole and a control freak, and that I was stopping my wife from using her full potential. I told my sister-in-law that I would support my wife in anything she chooses to do, as long as it would not cause financial harm to our family. My wife and sister-in-law are both pissed at me, and now I feel like an ass. Am I the a-hole for telling my wife to get the money back? This is just like what you hear time and time again on Illuminati's channel. I don't understand how MLMs continue to thrive in today's economy and seem to be stronger than ever. Like, in my mind, I just can't comprehend it in the slightest. OP seems to be looking out for their partner here, who is very much aware of the sister's long history of scams and falling for MLMs and targeting friends and family. Yet the wife in this situation still got sucked in and is now of the belief that they can make a six-figure income every month if they push the product hard enough. It really just baffles the mind at this point how that worked itself out. If your wife refuses to stop enabling that behavior and see things from your point of view, I would say morally you're in the clear for making another account to protect your fun money. It's all well and good that she wants to support her struggling sister-in-law, but instead of doing it from a distance, she wants to join her. And from where I'm standing, it looks like the sister-in-law will start slowly sinking that ship with the both of them on it. So far, I'm gonna go with not the a-hole for your actions, OP. If that's really what she wants to do, then you've just gotta let her, but definitely separate those fun finances. Now in the comments, firmly that guy says, not the a-hole. You don't secretly take money from a joint account. You ask as it's family money. I would separate accounts. Your wife is intent on joining a pyramid scheme and will end up losing thousands. Statistically, this is the most likely outcome of pyramid schemes and MLMs. Protect your assets before that happens. And edit, I would also make it clear to your wife that any money spent on her harebrained pyramid scheme needs to come out of her fun money, not the household bills money. Exactly this. That money should never have come from the joint account. Her decision and her money? Fine. Taking joint money for it? Not a chance. OP, you are not the a-hole. That's the part that baffled me the most and is why OP should definitely open a new account. They have their own fun money, but yet she decides to not use that money and instead transfers a large sum of money from the shared account without any communication? That screams financially irresponsible to me. I would be scared sharing an account with her. I'm suspicious she's already used the fun money for the same scheme and is now tapping the family money. My first thought too. I bet she's already been investing her fun money into the schemes and OP just doesn't know. As someone who has family members who repeatedly fall into MLM, fun money is likely still there, and using the joint account instead is probably being openly defended as, for our future, when really, it actually was, so not all of the risk was on me alone. Not the a-hole, protect your assets, otherwise your wife will be scrounging off others to cover her debts, just like your sister-in-law, and dragging you down with them both. Not the a-hole. Had she spent her own fun money, that would be one thing. She can do whatever she wants with that. She can either get that money back from her sister or use her discretionary income to top up the account. But she cannot make unilateral decisions about family funds without your approval. Unless she's cool with you literally setting $2,000 on fire in front of her because you felt like it. But why spend her own money when she can just use the shared money? Don't you know it's an emergency? Don't you know that she just can't lose her own money? What are you thinking? Sarcasm, by the way. Not the a-hole, your wife is ridiculously gullible. Yes, she is. But I also want to add the caveat that these MLM companies train people to manipulate and pressure the people in their lives using their existing interpersonal relationships. It's definitely gullible for OP's wife to fall for this scam and believe she'll be making 6 figures a month doing it. But her sister, presumably someone she loves and trusts, is actively weaponizing their close relationship to manipulate her into joining, and is doing it with scripts and psychological tricks the company is directly providing her with. The wife doesn't want to join because she heard a business proposition she thought was convincing and compelling. She wants to join for the emotional reasons tied into guilt, obligation, and love that the sister is actively milking. MLMs are really very, very cult-like, and their reliance on the exploitation of existing social bonds is one reason they persist, despite 5 minutes of Google research making it abundantly clear to any thinking person that they're a horrible idea. You're absolutely right. I also come from a family that is pretty blue-collar, with some members who are very envious of celebrity and mega-rich lifestyles, and want that for themselves. They believe the MLM lies and buy into the idea because they want the super-rich lifestyle, but don't have the education, means, or ability to possibly ever reach it on their own. When they hear tales of making tons of money and going to conferences in tropical places, being your own boss and making your own hours, they become enamored with the possibilities and see it as their opportunity to finally get a career that is like the one that would have maybe been available to them if they went to college and did the work. Essentially, they're hoping to use the MLM to skip a lot of the steps people take on their way to becoming successful. They take advantage of people who can't seem to be content with their current life and have always believed that they were meant for something more. The MLM is that chance. They're sick, parasitic organizations, and I would really like the FCC or other regulatory agencies to come down on them much harder. Posted by user Gayla Kitty. Titled, Am I the a-hole for not letting my friend wear my engagement ring? Okay, a little bit of backstory here. My fiancé and I have been engaged for about 3 weeks. He got me the most beautiful ring that is exactly what I've always wanted, and it fits me perfectly. The only time I take my ring off is to apply lotion to my hands. I work in the medical field, which means lots of hand washing, sanitizing, and cleaning, so my hands get super dry. And when I do that, I keep it directly in front of me on my desk and within sight at all times. I've never had any sort of issues until a couple days ago. I have a co-worker with whom I am friendly. Let's call her T. We used to be very close until I figured out that she and I led very different lives, and I don't necessarily jive with her morals. Whatever, live and let live, I let a little bit of distance form between us, but we're still friendly and still talk at the office. So naturally, I told her that I was engaged, and she asked to see my ring. She oohed and ahed at it, like most other people in the office, and I didn't think much about it. But a couple of days ago, she approached my desk while I was putting lotion on my hands, with my ring laying directly in front of me as usual. Without asking, she reached down and picked up my ring and slipped it onto her own finger instead, holding it up and admiring it, etc. I was flabbergasted. I didn't even know what to say, and I was so shocked that I just sat there in uncomfortable silence until she made a comment about how it looked so good on her. And I commented, don't go getting any ideas. Trying to be light-hearted, but also wanting my ring back. She eventually took it off and handed it back to me and left. I was super uncomfortable with the whole thing, but I put it off, thinking I was being too sensitive. Today, I was walking past her desk and she asked to see my ring. I held out my hand for her to look at it, and she began to remove the ring from my finger, so I pulled my hand back. She got pouty and asked why she couldn't take it off and see it since I had let her before. I told her I had not let her do that before. She had grabbed it without permission and put it on without even asking if I minded. She rolled her eyes at me and said I was being ridiculous. I feel like I'm justified to be protective of a ring that represents my fiancé's love for me. Am I the a-hole? Edit, just to be clear, T is not gay, although it would in no way bother me if she was. She was married to a man, the father of her children, when I first met her, and as I got to know her better, I found out she had a lot of side guys while still married and still expecting her husband to take care of her. I was being intentionally vague about it before because I didn't feel like it was relevant to the story, but since everyone seems very concerned, I'm happy to share why I began to distance myself from her. I don't think that detail is honestly too relevant to the story outside of the fact that if she's careless and deceptive in her personal relationship, that may also translate to her handling of your ring, which could end up in her stealing it from you if she finds a way to get it without you being present. You're well within your rights to have the emotional reaction to her as you did, as it's a sentimental item, and you're making extra sure not to damage it or lose it. She refused to respect your boundaries when she picked it up, and then used that as precedent to see it again. That's kind of a dick move by her to guilt trip you like that, when you already said you don't want her wearing it. I think you handled this well, and should continue denying her and being tough in the face of her attitude. Not the a-hole. Now in the comments, Dragonfly825 says, "Not the a-hole. I also realize you have to still work with this rude, entitled lady, so tell her it's bad luck to try on someone else's engagement or wedding ring. Someone tried to do this to me, and I told her the same. We really do believe this. You still need to work with this woman. This gives you a reason to say no without simply saying you don't want to. Saying you don't want to is 100% perfectly okay, but this option might make things more comfortable at work. Maybe she should let HR know what happened, in the event her ring goes missing. This seems pretty excessive and a good way to cause an issue. It shouldn't, as long as it's a matter of, hey, I'm not requesting any action, but I'm a little nervous things might escalate, and I just want to get some advice and maybe establish a timeline. These were the events that took place on XY 2021, this was the following interaction, and this is how I feel about the whole thing. Do you have a suggestion on best handling this situation? If things continue, I'll provide an update. Thank you." It's not crying wolf or getting someone in trouble to mention that an issue may be developing. If the woman did get in trouble as a result of the heads up or soft report, then it's likely not the first time people have brought her to HR's attention. The OP said they used to be close. If the OP goes to HR to establish a timeline, that is requesting an action. She's not being harassed. The co-worker/friend is overstepping and OP knows it. Going to HR over a personal issue is extreme. I say personal issue because, as others pointed out, it's perfectly acceptable to try on someone else's ring in some cultures. OP also states she pulled back from the friendship because their morals didn't align. Maybe if the co-worker is that forward, she's not picking up on the OP's subtleties. Not the a-hole. It feels like she's going to take it. Would you be up for wearing it on a necklace at work? That's what I did when I worked in a hospital lab because of all the hand washing and on and off with gloves. My ring would sometimes snag gloves and rip them. I was hoping someone would suggest this. I worked with a lot of nurses, and the amount of times I'd see their rings go right through a glove, I could never understand why they didn't put them on a chain during work. I'm surprised it's even allowed. It's not where I work. There is an absurd amount of bacteria under a ring after wearing it a whole day. I work as a dental hygienist and would have been fired on the spot if I wore a ring when I meet patients. This was exactly my take. Definitely not the a-hole for her response to her colleague, but I'm horrified she's wearing a ring to work and is allowed to. If hygiene isn't a sufficient reason for OP to switch to wearing it on a necklace, I'm a research scientist by training, and on more than one occasion had to go through the hazard waste to find colleagues' rings that had come off inside gloves. In a clinical setting, it's unlikely you'd be able to do that, or possibly not know which bin to search, even if she were able. And not the a-hole. If she wants to try on engagement rings, then she can go to a jewelry store. Why anyone would think it's okay to just grab someone else's ring and put it on is beyond me. Posted by user Nista Language, titled, "Am I the a-hole for not telling my daughter's mother her secret words?" Our cast are me, male 36, my daughter Clara, female 12, my ex-wife Sarah, female 37. Few backstory details. Sarah and I got married when Clara was born, and separated when she was 6 years old. Clara spends her time 50-50 between us with 2 weeks split. We both live in the same city, so her friends and schooling are consistent, not constantly switching back and forth. The event in question. This all started when I read The Hobbit by J.R.R. Tolkien to Clara 2 years ago. We talked about how he was a linguist and had actually created several languages from scratch for the story. This captured my daughter's imagination. She has been obsessed with linguistics ever since, and I have been happy to provide as many texts and information as I can. Almost all of it is for higher level students, but I do my best to help her understand it. I'm definitely not a linguist, and she definitely knows more than me at this point. For about a year, she's been creating her own language, which she calls Nista. I think that's the spelling, it is only verbal. This language isn't just English with different sounds for the different words, it is actually a new language. She's created different conjugations, syntax, and grammar. Just one example is a bunch of different suffixes to indicate emotion that can be attached to any word. Clara and I speak Nista together for probably about 60% of our conversations. It's the highlight of my entire life. I cannot believe how creative my daughter is. Sarah remarried 5 years ago, and I haven't been in a relationship since we divorced. Clara prefers her time at mine, something I definitely don't encourage. I want her to be happy at both, but she's never been comfortable around her stepdad and stepbrother. I think he's around the same age as her, but I'm not positive. I knew that Clara had never taught Sarah any Nista, which I was selfishly kinda happy about. I loved having this language that only me, my daughter, and her friends shared. However, when Sarah dropped Clara off this week, she informed me that she hasn't spoken anything but that gobbledygook for the entire 2 weeks she was with her. Sarah then demanded that I teach her the secret words. I refused and explained that if Sarah wanted her to know any Nista, I stressed its name because Sarah kept disparaging it, she would have taught her it. I then closed the door in her face. Sarah texted me saying there could be an emergency and that she would need to know. I said that she still knows English if there is an emergency. I've talked to her teachers at school. Her English teacher said that Clara has shown her the language, but only briefly. In all of her classes, including English, she speaks English. Thinking it over, I don't know if I did the right thing or not. This is a massive part of our own daughter's life, and one that she isn't letting her mother into. She's told me that she wants to go to college for linguistics, so this isn't anything temporary. So Reddit, am I the a-hole? At the end of the day, it's your daughter's language really, and if she doesn't want to share that with her mother, then this is an intentional and consistent choice. There's been years and countless opportunities to involve her mother, and she's chosen not to bridge that gap. We all obviously don't understand that interpersonal relationship between the two, but the elephant in the room would suggest that your daughter doesn't trust her. It doesn't seem like it's your place to brief her on Nista and bring her into the club. That should be something those two sort out between each other. Nothing much else to add to that conversation myself. I'm just gonna go with not the a-hole. Now in the comments, Snakes Can't Wear Pants says, no a-holes here. Here's the thing. It's not really hard to guess why Clara prefers your house. Kids don't generally like it when their parents move on after a divorce. A lot of the times it feels like a betrayal to them. Sarah has done this and Clara isn't happy with it. She doesn't want another parent and sibling. She wants her parents. You haven't dated, so in her eyes at least, you are the only parent who is completely devoted to her. I know it bothers you that Sarah seems so unsupportive of Clara's language, but to you, it's a purely happy thing, an example of your child's brilliance and creativity. For Sarah, it's a constant reminder that Clara prefers you and that she is being excluded from a big part of her child's life. That's not your fault, but I'm sure you can see why that makes her a bit resentful of the language, especially after 2 weeks Clara using it intentionally to alienate her. All that being said, I don't think you should teach Sarah the language. To Clara, it will be a massive betrayal, and it won't solve the problem of why she's doing this. Do the best you can to encourage a positive relationship with her mom and stepfamily. Communicate as much as possible with Sarah about how Clara is doing and what's going on in her life, and get Clara into some counseling if you can to help deal with her feelings. I think the solution here is to help get Clara to the point where she's not wanting to alienate herself from her mom and stepfamily anymore. If you just take away her means, she will simply find a new way to do it and be that much angrier at all of you. And OP replies, "This is an extremely insightful comment. Thank you." No problem. I'm a child of multiple divorces, so the teen resentment thing is very familiar. I did something similar where I didn't really make up a language, but just warped English enough so my parents couldn't understand it, and only spoke to my older sister most of the time. No, snakes can't wear pants. Love your username. This is really insightful. You speak from a place of experience, from the child's perspective, for the benefit of the child, which is of paramount importance. I was going to say it's not his problem if the daughter does not get on with her mom, but it is his problem, for the sake of the beautiful, well-adjusted human he is bringing up. Thank you for sharing. No a-holes here. Agree with all of this. Perhaps talk to Clara and ask her why she chose to speak Nista at her mum's house when she knows no one there understands it. Get her thinking about her feelings so that she can express them. Perhaps relate it to how she would feel if people around her were speaking a language she couldn't understand. Also, maybe speak to her mum about some family therapy on that end to help improve the relationships, assuming that hasn't already or isn't already happening. This was the one addition I had. It's fine if she doesn't want to share the language with her mum and stepfamily, but while staying with them, she should be respectful and speak English. Not the a-hole. You sound like a great dad, and she sounds like an awesome kid. As long as she is doing well in school and socially, I wouldn't worry. Sounds like things are becoming an issue at the other house, though. You might want to talk to her about what's going on and how she's feeling. And OP replies, that's definitely true. She's having stronger and stronger feelings about not wanting to be there. Clara was an only child in your marriage and can be one at your home. Having to share parents' time as well as dealing with a step-sibling is hard. I'm guessing that Nista blocks out the step-sibling as much as her mom. It also allows her to continue to be an only. When your ex-wife then became a stepmom, that creates its own dynamic and can make it feel unequal for your daughter. Stepkids are either doted on or forgotten, it feels like. Your home doesn't have that. Not only is she not an only at mum's house, but she's a part-time kid. She probably feels left out of the family dynamic after being away for 2 weeks, and this gives her a way to control that, in a way. Not the a-hole, as it's your child's creation, and she's free to share it with whoever she wants. It's not your obligation to teach your ex. That being said, a conversation with your daughter about when it's appropriate to use the language may be in order. Refusing to talk to her mother in English is not a good thing, and at 12, she's old enough to realize what she's doing. And OP replies, yeah, she definitely knew what she was doing. She told me that she wanted to make them feel how she feels around them. Sounds like a bigger custody conversation is due if that's the case. If she's not happy there, then it may be in her best interest to change to a different schedule. And OP replies, that could certainly be the case, but I'm terrified of it backfiring and getting less time. It was incredibly difficult for me to get 50%. Well, she's in an age now where the courts should take her opinion into consideration, but understanding the root of her unhappiness might help. Is her nose out of joint because she's no longer the sole child in the house? Some one-on-one time with her mother might go some way to rectifying that situation. Counseling may also help. Blending two families takes a lot of time and work. If her mother just thinks that it'll sort itself out, then this is likely to get worse. And OP replies, my ex's new father-in-law is a judge on the family court. I know that shouldn't affect anything, but I'm certain it would. You aren't wrong, unfortunately. I feel like there's got to be some kind of way to get a different judge due to his personal connection to your ex, making him potentially biased. Oh, I don't think we would get him as our judge, but they all sit on the same bench. I think that's the term. Alright guys, I think that's where I'm going to end today's video. If you need a good laugh, please do check out my second channel, Markee 2, links down in the description below, or it's going to appear somewhere on the screen here at the end, little bubble with my face on it. As always, a big shout out to my Patreon and channel members. Your faces are surrounding me right now, and I love to have you guys with me, and down in the comment sections of each and every video, and just knowing that you're always there to support me. It's a humbling and lovely feeling. And rest assured, I do see you, and I do notice your support, and I thank you every day for being here and helping me along this journey. Not much else to say besides that, guys. Thank you for sticking around to the end of the video. I do hope that you have a good day, night, sleep, whatever you're up to. I will see you in the next video, and thank you again. Bye.